Back to you, Peggy. Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right, I'm gonna circle back to RMS and see if he is able to get on. Next, let me go on and introduce Suncoast Business Consultants, Brian Zoberg. He's a realtor and a business broker. Brian, tell us about yourself and the company.
Hey, good morning. Brian Zoberg, Suncoast Business Consultants. I'm a business broker. I help people buy and sell businesses here in South Florida, all deal levels from Main Street restaurants, beauty salons, dry cleaners, to manufacturing, distribution companies, and larger M&A, what would be considered M&A or lower middle market deals. I also work with the international buyers who are looking to move to South Florida and get a visa, E2 or L1 or EB5 visa. And if you're looking to buy or sell, please remember, I sell other people's businesses. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce the company S3G, which is a CPA firm, which is owned by Dr. Shobha Gupta. So please tell us about yourself and your business.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Shobha Gupta. As Peggy said, thanks, Peggy. I own the company S3G Accounting, and we offer business accounting services starting from setting up a new business, registering the company, to helping people to set up their accounting systems and coach them as CFO services we offer. So we do hand-holding for business owners and provide them day-to-day guidance. And also then end of the year, we do sales, the business taxes and personal taxes for them. So the business structure is so that we can provide entire service remotely. I have a team of very talented people who work remotely. If there's a need, we can go to the customer site as well. But entire remote service has made us unique in the sense that what we have been through COVID, we have been able to survive, to provide seamless services to all our clients. So for any accounting needs, call S3G.
Awesome.
S3G.
Very good. Awesome. Okay. Next, we have Mendelson Consulting, represented by Mario Novogrodsky. He is a consultant and has lots of information on QuickBooks. Mario, tell us about yourself and the company.
Hi, Peggy. Thank you for inviting me. Mario Novogrodsky. Do not let those letters after my name sway you. CPA, we're not an accounting firm. I just keep my CPA license active. But Mendelson Consulting is an accounting technology consulting firm specializing in QuickBooks and now also on Microsoft Dynamics solutions to optimize operations and optimize financial results for small and medium-sized businesses. For over 30 years, Mendelson has been recognized as an innovator in the QuickBooks consulting space. We've won awards essentially every year. We were the very first company that QuickBooks took on as a partner. Thousands of accounting professionals, QuickBooks advisors, IT providers engage with us to find and implement solutions for their client projects. We deliver integrated solutions, what we call QuickBooks-centric applications, to address a variety of requirements that businesses face. We also have a cloud division, a cloud services division. It's called Nube, provides infrastructure and services for QuickBooks on the Microsoft Azure platform. For those businesses that want to stay with QuickBooks Desktop, yet they want to go to the cloud, we have the solution to make the best of both worlds. So when you think of QuickBooks, you think of us. You know, we are the longest standing reseller in QuickBooks products, and we pass on our resale discounts to our customers. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Awesome. I'm in the clouds just thinking about all that. So I'm not an IT person. Next, we have an action coach, Juan Ortega. Please tell us about yourself and the business.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Juan Ortega. Our company is Action Coach. We're the world's leading business coaching organization. We are a franchise model. We've been around for 29 years, headquartered out of Las Vegas, Nevada. There's about 1,000 of us scattered in 82 countries. I personally have been an action coach for 10 years now, so I have over 10,000 coaching hours under my belt. And essentially what we do is we work with all types of business owners, large, small, different types of industries, and we help them in the three major challenges that business owners have: time, team, and money. So we focus on helping business owners obviously increase revenues, increase profits. We help them with things like marketing and building a team so that they can get not just more money from their business, but also time and build a business through the process of building a great team. Because ultimately, what we want is to help people own a business that works without them not owning a job that they have to show up for.
Sure.
So we're the only ones that have a 17-week guarantee. So we actually guarantee our results, and we have coaching programs to fit any budget. So that's who we are. Thank you so much for having us here today.
You're muted, Peggy.
Oh, sorry. Awesome. That sounds very interesting, Juan. Okay, the next person I want to introduce is Vice President for Brown & Brown Insurance, Beth Garcia-Swopa. Beth, tell us about yourself and the business and what you do for businesses.
Okay. Hi, my name is Beth Garcia-Swopa. I'm with Brown & Brown Insurance. I am out of the Fort Lauderdale office. However, I'm considered a national broker. You know, Brown & Brown is in every state. We're an international now as well. So I work with companies in my 32 years experience. I'm actually an insurance consultant. So I don't just take your policies and I quote, I actually do an analysis and see what the exclusions and limitations are in policies today. Because as we know, there's more attorneys than they are in any industry. So you want to make sure those exposures are covered, whether it's, you know, for your employees on the workers' comp side, liability and auto. We're in a very hard market. It's not softening up anytime soon. So to get ahead of those renewals, and I always say, even if you just renewed, now's a great time to check out your policies to make sure that you're insured properly. So I use our relationships within Brown & Brown. We have a retail division as well as a wholesale division. So if it's a company that doesn't fit the standard market carriers, such as Chubb, Liberty, CNA, Travelers, then we have a broker division that we can access Brown & Brown owned brokers to deliver the same competitive options, if not better, because of those relationships. I'll put my contact information in the chat. So if anyone needs any assistance, feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome, Beth. Thank you. She's got over 30 years experience and will do an awesome job for you. I have referred many clients to Beth, so no question there. She's one of the best. I can see now that Ricardo Moncada is not on. He is also one of our top sponsors for many of my webinars. And he's also my favorite Hispanic man. I hate to say that, Cesar, but I don't know you as well. So, and I knew him first. But anyway, his company is RMSBE, which stands for Roof Management Solutions Building Envelope. And Ricardo's business is very significant right now, especially with the hurricanes floating around. He does roof inspections and roof management. Management meaning he can also take bids for you, be unbiased, and he can write up your specifications. Does a lot of things also with waterproofing and exterior of the buildings. So I will be sending around a sponsor sheet, and it's going to have everyone's contact information. A little bit of housekeeping before I turn this over to Cesar. If you have any questions, put them in the Q&A section, and our moderator, Layla, will pick those up at the end and try to get all of them addressed with Cesar. With that, I am going to turn it over to you now, Cesar Serrano from Schooley Mitchell. Tell us about yourself and your business and your presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Peggy, for organizing this webinar, as well as the sponsors for their support. The topic, are you showing the presentation, Leila? Sharing it? Okay, great. Excellent. On slide, okay, great. Topic information and provider number are shown on the slide. This webinar provides CEUs for CAM license holders, and the information is on the slide. Our topic today is hidden treasure operational cost reduction. Again, I'm Cesar Serrano, Chief Consultant with Opportunus Group, as well as strategic partner with Schooley Mitchell of South Florida. Overall, I have 3 years of experience in the building materials segment in areas such as strategy, sales, and operations. And my lovely wife, Rosie, our 3 boys and I moved to South Florida, been living in South Florida for the last 17 years, where I've been a volunteer of Hands of Miami, Feeding South Florida. We currently support Handy, and I'm an avid runner, wine enthusiast, and enjoy nature. Next. The objectives of this presentation, basically, one of the key objectives is understanding the impact of controlling costs, right? Especially now with the level of inflation that we're experiencing, as well as the disruptions with supply chain, is very important for any type of organization. How this cost will impact your gross margins as well as profit. What are the key categories of cost, depending on the type of entity? And we're organizing, we basically have a three broad categories of organizations that we're going to be analyzing. Basically, we're looking at businesses, we're looking at facility management entities, where community associations and building owners management associations fall into, and nonprofits or institutions, right? Those are the 3 key categories. The other objective is how to optimize the cost while maintaining an acceptable level of service, and the financial impact of optimizing your cost. Next. How are we going to deliver on those objectives? There's 4 questions that we need to, let's say, 4 areas where we need to have answers to. One is the why. Why do we need to get into this topic? Why is it important to control operational cost, right? And how that industry is structured. And then what are the challenges that currently small businesses and any type of business and organization or entity are facing with the levels of inflation and disruption on supply chain that we're experiencing? The what are the key categories, and what is how important those categories are for each type of business? Where these categories fit in. So depending on the profile of the business, what are the key areas that we need to focus on? And we're looking again, as I mentioned before, at the 3 broad categories that we where we organize all those entities around, which is businesses, nonprofits or institutions, and facility management entities that include community associations and building owners management associations as well. And the how can the impact, a positive impact, can be delivered to those organizations, and what should be behind the expertise that delivers that value? Next. The ultimate goal of every entity is either to reduce the operational cost, improve profits, while at the same time they maintain an acceptable level of service. In other words, you keep providing good quality service while reducing the cost of execution, right? You optimize that part of the organization. Next. Any type of organization, this could be a community association, any type of business, any nonprofit or institution, they usually pay more for services. Most of them have errors in billing and do not have the resources to track or claim refunds. The reason is that there is no marketplace. Entities do not have the access to the information they need to make decisions when it comes to deciding which vendor to use. You need an expert in those segments to do that, to compare service level and price structure, and your services to be able to make the right choice. Let me give you an example. You want to buy a house. You talk to a realtor. You tell them the location, how big the house should be, the number of bedrooms, and so on and so forth. This realtor logs into the MLS listing, which is the marketplace for residential construction, right? Any transaction, regardless of who did the transaction, any transaction or a critical mass of information is basically on that marketplace. So the realtor logs into the MLS listing, gets basically information about the latest closings and the price, regardless of who did it, right? And basically with that information provides an accurate estimate to any prospect on how much they will pay, or what will be a reasonable price to buy a house in that area with those characteristics. That is the marketplace, right? That is the value of the information. There is no such a thing in business. There is no such a thing in business. In business, basically, you know, one or two suppliers or providers, and basically you try to make always the right decision, but not always do you have the level of information that you need to make the right choice. So having access to experts with the level of experience and access to a national benchmark, which is a proprietary marketplace, will allow you to save money and improve your cash flow. Next. This is a complex industry, right? The industries that deliver those services are going through tremendous changes due to innovation, consolidation, or changes in legislation. All of those changes are reflected in a more complex cost structure that oftentimes any type of decision maker, this could be a community association manager, property managers, owners, do not fully understand. In turn, those changes become challenges for any type of entity and prevent them from being fully optimized. Next. Now, these are the cost categories that we will go through. From top left to the bottom right, we're looking at utilities, telecommunications, waste disposal, merchant services, e-signature services, fuel, small package shipments, and fleet management. And we will provide context in terms of the scope of each category and the way those industries or segments operate. Next. When it comes to telecommunications, we will address basically what is the importance of a technology assessment and best business practices in terms of the infrastructure that you should have to manage your information, as well as best business practices in terms of disaster recovery plans, and nowadays that we're seeing more and more basically how to manage an organization that is working remotely, right? And all of that using or taking the most value out of your telecommunications infrastructure. First of all, an audit on your landline, long distance, toll-free internet, and wireless services can identify cost savings, increase efficiency, and recover billing errors. An audit can also provide you with a full inventory of your telecom equipment and services. So that is one area where you can incorporate initiatives or take action in order to optimize the infrastructure that you have and use it more effectively or more efficiently. Now, an operating entity as an operating entity, you need to manage your information. That information should be secure and you might have a server on site to do that. The industry in that area is moving to cloud-based solutions. The advantage of doing that is reflected in several different ways. Number one, accessibility. You can access your information from anywhere in the world, right? Doesn't represent upfront installation costs. Is predictable in a way in terms of the cost, right? You have a better control of these costs. You make regular payments to cover licensing, software licensing, support, daily backups, and any potential upgrades that you may choose, right? Usually, all the maintenance is taken care of by the cloud service provider, so you don't need to worry about it. It's highly secure and can be deployed quickly over the internet in a matter of hours or days. So, due to the flexibility of cloud solutions, they can easily scale and meet your changing needs, right? In addition to that, you gotta have the processes in place to make sure that you have continuity, right, in your operation. And one of the things that you should consider is to set up a disaster recovery plan, which is a way to proactively prevent and make sure that your organization is shielded against any possible threat, right? And in that plan, you describe the process, policies, and procedures for responding to those cases, right? Which is basically, this could be a hurricane, this could be a cyber event, this could be a power outage, any type of event that will basically pose a risk to the continuity of your operations can be basically considered and mitigated with this plan, right? These plans usually lay out the necessary steps to recover or continue your IT infrastructure and should include hardware and software safeguards. The last but not least is basically to have a remote a plan that will allow effectively to your employees to work remotely. After COVID, flexibility in the workplace is becoming a new normal. And if your employees are working from home, either temporarily or in a hybrid capacity or full-time, chances are you do not control their internet provider or their network speed and quality. Like anyone else, your employees are going to experience outages. How you handle these difficulties can be seen as a sign of strength of your business and your leadership. There are 3 actions that you can take to improve your employees' experience working from home. One is subsidize better equipment and cellular plans. The second one, to create an IT health process. And the number 3 is to offer the office as an alternative space. So those are the 3 things. So basically a combination of managing, basically incorporating actions to manage effectively your technology assets, right? Along with a set of best business practices and processes will allow you to basically have a reliable infrastructure that will allow your operation to become effective and efficient. Next. Merchant services. So then again, we're looking at the pressure that any organization is basically going through in terms of inflation and disruptions in the supply chain globally, basically. When we're looking at merchant services, we're looking at thousands and thousands of transactions that impact in cost almost any type of business that sells B2C, business to consumer. This could be restaurants, this could be hotels, wholesalers, e-commerce companies. And those organizations usually do not have the resources to keep track of those transactions in order to basically improve their fee structure and reduce the cost per transaction and the overall cost in this category. So I had 5 tips to reduce your credit card processing fees and making the most of your revenue. Number 1, keep an eye on your rates. In that case, you will need to do monthly audits of your merchant services, check for billing errors, and avoid rate creep. Processors usually offer seemingly standard contracts, but many contain provisions that allow them to increase your rates. So that is one of the things that you need to do. Number 2, swipe cards and answer questions. Obviously, it will be optimum for any business to be able to insert or swipe a card when they're basically completing a transaction. This is not always the case. In some cases, some businesses, for different reasons, they're basically not able to do this. So in those cases, you need to answer as much information or provide as much information as possible. Name, number of the credit card, zip code, the 3 digits on the back of the card, and so on and so forth. In those cases, basically, in this situation, basically, the card processors, they usually, when you do not swipe or insert a card, they usually see or envision a higher risk. So by providing as much information as possible, you will lower the risk and lower the fee. The third one has to do with using address verification service. In this case, this solution verifies the cardholder's billing address with the card issuer. So it takes your payment services a step further in preventing fraud and has been a big benefit in the world of e-commerce, including basically limiting chargebacks. The next one is number 4, make sure PCI compliance is up to date. You require basically by your processor, you're required to complete a questionnaire periodically. And what that does is basically allows your information to be updated. If you don't do that, your vendor will incur in monthly fees, and those fees can build up indefinitely. So you need to do that. And the last but not least, number 5, basically you can hire a professional, someone that will be on your side as a consultant that will be able to assess the way you do business in terms of your this category of cost, merchant services, and basically provide with the right level of advice in order for you to lower your costs and continue providing your services in an effective and efficient manner. Next. Small package shipments. This is something similar to the previous one, to merchant services. When you're looking into businesses like wholesalers, e-commerce companies, small package shipments are a big portion of their operating costs. Regardless of the type of service that you get, standard shipping, overnight, you basically need to align the level of service that you need to the type of products that you're providing. A 2020 survey from industry expert Condo found that 47% of respondents say they're unlikely to shop with a retailer again after a bad shipping experience. Finding the right partner to ship your products is key to the success of your business. Next. Waste disposal. It's hard for any type of business to identify the components of this cost because most of these activities take place outside the boundaries of the business, right? There's 4 components to the overall cost of waste disposal. One is the container cost, collection, transfer, and landfill. Understanding this will allow you to identify the actions that you need to take in order to reduce the cost. One is obviously to reduce the overall amount of waste disposed. You can do that there's a few ways to do that, right? One could be incorporating basically incorporating recycling equipment and a process to be able to recycle what could be waste, to recycle in a way that you can basically reduce the overall amount of disposed waste. But then on the other hand, in some cases, you can also sell that recycled material. The other way is basically, if you have a substantial amount of organic waste, you can also incorporate a commercial or industrial composting solution, which is basically composters usually often collect compostable materials directly from your business and then use the latest technologies to put these into good use. Now, the other way to reduce the overall cost of waste disposal could be to organize or segregate the different types of waste into different containers and reduce the frequency of collection. Now, having said that, you can also use basically the help of an expert that will probably look into the overall fee structure and look into ways to reduce those costs. Next. E-signature. Basically, electronic signatures continue surging in popularity with newer, faster, and more secure programs hitting the market every day. At the end of the day, the goal, the key objective of this service, either if you do it in an analog way or a digital way, basically, in all cases, they intend to hold up your end of a bargain and verify that your word is the truth. Basically, that's what it is. And in this case, usually to optimize your cost of doing business, right, in this area, usually you look into the level of utilization of this type of tool. Next. Fuel. Very important for almost any type of business. This could be contractors, this could be trucking companies, moving companies. Usually, in these cases, it's suggested to use a fleet card. A fleet card is something similar to a business card, only that the fleet card is usually basically provided to employees who use and operate a corporate vehicle to cover basically for fuel, vehicle repairs, and maintenance expenses. One of the advantages of these fleet cards is that they provide accurate records and flexible reporting, spending history and budget control, driver convenience, and reduced fuel expenses. That is one of the advantages. Versus the business card, which is basically those basically can be used for any type of expense of any type of business, right? Now with inflation impacting the cost of fuel, you may think that gas stations are seeing the profits, right? The structure, the network of gas stations in this country is basically mostly owned by single or sole proprietors. And 57% of all of those gas stations are owned by a single, basically single owner, right? One individual. And in those cases, 57% of those gas stations, of those owners, have only one gas station. So that means that they rely on the success of one location, right? Most of them are franchisees, right? And the margins that they get, the net margin that they make on fuel is around 1.4%. Compared to the rest of the offering, in those cases where a gas station has a store in the same location, where they make margins of 7.7%. So usually those gas stations rely on reducing other operational costs in order to be able to compensate for the lower margin that they get on fuel, right? Fuel is a commodity. So for them to compete with other gas stations makes it more challenging, right? So they need to rely on other operating costs in order to be able to continue operating and making sure that they're reducing other costs so they don't have to take on the employees, right? They need the employees, they keep the same organizational structure, and they focus on other areas to be able to reduce their operational costs and compensate for that low margin on fuel. On the other hand, when you're looking into moving companies or trucking companies, 75% of a fleet's variable cost, variable expense is fuel, 75%. So making improvements in the cost of fuel for those companies is a must and is something that will basically allow them to remain or become profitable. Next.
Cesar, can I say something on the insurance side with respect to fuel cards?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so as an employer, this is one area too you want to closely monitor. You know, when things start getting tough, some employees do some silly things, and theft from fleet cards is on the rise. You know, where they'll hang out at the gas station, they'll fill up someone else's tank for a fraction of the cost and then take the cash. So if you're not checking that account on a monthly basis, you can find yourself down the road, you know, where a lot of money is missing from your company basically, and that's a crime exposure. That's considered employee theft. So you want to stay ahead of that, so you're not trying to catch up at the end of the day. Because I saw one company lose about $30,000 on their big fleet by a few guys being in on this racket.
Okay, great, excellent point. Good. Thank you. Well, let's next slide. So basically, if you have a fleet like trucking companies, contractors, or moving companies, basically you need to ensure your tracking costs, basically, or keeping your costs as lean as possible. So you can focus on managing your fleet. Thousands of businesses rely on fleet tracking software and electronic logging devices to keep their operations running smoothly. But it is more than that. Government regulations require some companies to utilize ELD, which is electronic logging devices, to log duty status. The cost of these technologies can really add up. Experts in ELD and fleet tracking can examine your entire system to recommend the configuration that is right for your business, satisfying both government regulations and your specific needs. Next. Utilities. There's one before this one, I think. We jump on utilities. There you no. One before.
My goodness, how many did I jump?
No. Go back one more. There.
Utilities?
That one.
Sorry.
That yes, utilities. Sorry. Okay, so there's two definitions that you need to get familiar with, right? To be familiar with. One is distributors and the other one is suppliers. Distributors are those responsible for getting electricity from the supplier to your home or business, right? They own the network, they own the distribution lines, substations, cables, and so on, right? Usually, when you're in a specific location, you don't necessarily get to decide who is your distributor, because not all of them have a network or are able to take that service from the power plant to where you need the service, right? So usually you're not able to basically choose who your distributor should be. That is basically based on the location that you're at, right? On the other hand, the supplier is the one who provides the energy to the distributor and is the one that sends you the monthly utility bill. Why consumers don't get to choose the distributor, they can choose the supplier. There's states, and you're going to see that, basically look into that. We're going to be looking into that in the following slides. There's states basically that have a deregulated legislation when it comes to utilities, right? And so in those cases, suppliers get to set the price of energy, right? This could be natural gas, this could be electricity. On the other hand, and this is a trend, technology trend, basically those suppliers and distributors are incorporating new technological developments and basically to improve the reliability of their networks and minimize any impact of storms or hurricanes or any other type of situation that may impact the level of service that they're providing. Next. Having said that, many believe, basically, since most of people do not know that they can choose in those cases, in those states, they can choose suppliers, many believe that the cost of utilities is fixed, that there's no room for savings. This is not always the case. More businesses are not sure whether they're paying too much for utilities, such as electricity or natural gas. Many have never given it a second thought and mistakenly believing that there is no opportunity to obtain better pricing for the services. Well, you can, and we're going to get into that into the following slide, right? You can do that in deregulated states. You can, you have a good chance to negotiate the cost of this type of services. Now, on the other hand, commodity markets can be complex and confusing. And when I talk about commodity markets, we're looking at utilities, we're looking at fuel. A lot of those basically components of the cost of doing business of any organization or entity basically are commodities, right? Those markets can be complex and confusing and making it difficult for many to navigate. So you need an expert to help you in that area. And three, the next one. So the way utilities are managed across the US changes from state to state, right? Not all states regulate utilities. And so in this case, what you will find is that if you factor in to this map the value of the economy in each of those states, well, the impact of reducing your operational cost in this area can mostly come, I mean, being the 5 states with the biggest GDP being California, Texas, Florida, New York, and Illinois, right? When you look into that, you're looking at the most of the opportunities to save are in states like California, Oregon, Texas, the Southeast portion where we find Georgia and Florida, as well as the Northeast of the US. Those are the areas where you have the biggest opportunity to reduce, where any type of organization has the biggest opportunity to reduce their operational cost in this area. Next. Now, next. Now we're looking at, we set up 9 examples of organizations, and we're identifying for those 9 segments, what are the key categories or the categories that will add, by reducing the cost in those categories, that will add more value to those organizations, right? Next. So we're looking at a residential contractor. A residential contractor, and this has to do with the segment where they play. This has to do with the way they do business. This has to do with the type of client that they're serving. Basically, the areas where you usually focus on in order to reduce your operational cost are telecommunications, merchant services, since most of the payments of these services are basically going through a credit card. Usually a consumer is paying for services and products through credit cards. And when you're looking at a commercial contractor, this category doesn't show up. Commercial contractors are usually paid by transfers or check, right? And the next one is waste, construction waste, fleet management, and fuel. Those are the key categories that you will focus on in when it comes to a residential contractor. Next. One more. Okay, when we look into facility management, we're looking into community associations, we're looking into building owners management associations, and there's 3 key items that you should look into when in that segment, which is telecommunications, waste disposal, and utilities. Utilities, in those states where utilities are deregulated. Next. Repair shop. So one of the reasons I included small package shipments in a repair shop is that by working with several businesses in South Florida, we found that usually repair shops also sell spare parts, right? In a lot of cases, and in some cases they export spare parts. So that's one of the reasons we included small package shipments. But the key categories in this area: telecommunications, small package shipments, which basically, especially for export, the cost of shipping is a big portion of your operating costs. And waste disposal. Waste disposal usually includes oil grease, which is waste from the work that they perform that usually is very costly to process, right? And in some other cases, when there is repairs or replacement of components of a car, you're looking at steel, right? Scrap, metal scrap, steel, copper, aluminum. And in those cases, they can sell that metal scrap and use it as an additional revenue income, right? Revenue stream. Next. Healthcare providers. Basically, this is one of those organizations that falls into almost every single category. Telecommunication is very important, not only because of the nature of the service that they provide, right? Internal communication, communication with clients, patients, and so on, suppliers, and so on. Merchant services to basically pay the co-pay deductibles and things like that. A portion of their revenue is basically through credit card. Waste, organic waste, and this is a type of waste that is basically more expensive to manage, right? Electronic logging devices or fleet management in a lot of cases, and with the global population becoming older and older, basically they're resourcing on fleets to be able to bring into their facilities people above 65-year-old to get different types of therapy. And so that is an additional cost for clinics. A lot of them are incorporating a fleet of vehicles into their infrastructure. It's signature services, utilities, and obviously fuel, because they have a good size fleet of vehicles. Next. Manufacturing facility, and this depends a lot on what they're manufacturing, right? And but usually it's telecommunications, small package shipments, and waste disposal. Next. Restaurants, hotels, all the services that they provide on site usually are to clients, B2C. And in those cases, obviously, merchant services are present. There's a level of risk that they identify, those processors identify, depending on the segment each business is playing. And the fees can get up to 4% of the revenue in some cases. And that depends on the segment where the organization is providing the service, right? Contractors or restaurants or hotels and so on. And so 4% of your revenue, when you take it down to your profit, it's a big chunk of improvement, right? Or basically, or the impact is really big, 4%. So those are the things that you need to take into consideration. So we have telecommunication, merchant services, waste, and utilities for the most part. Next. E-commerce services or wholesalers, merchant services, in those cases, merchant services and small package shipping represents most of their operating costs. So those are two areas that they can work on in order to improve their performance. Next. Higher level education. So what we're seeing, this is similar to a big community association. This could be similar to a, let's say, a campus of a higher level education institution is managed in a similar way as a community association, right? Like a big size community association where they have a construction, a big space where they require basically their, in a way, they require strong telecommunication infrastructure to be able to communicate with their either tenants or the rest of the organization, right? Merchant services to basically to charge for some of those services that are not included in the scope of the standard scope of services that they provide. Waste, right? Fleet management, because they need a fleet of vehicles to be able to supervise all those facilities and the campus itself. And utilities, when they are located in states that are deregulated, and fuel as well. Next. And this is an example of a professional services type of business where e-signature services, a law firm could be, e-signature services have a big impact on their overall operational cost. Next. The financial impact. So this is an estimation of what the impact could be when you're looking at two examples of businesses that we profile. Next. So this is in the construction area. We're looking at a profit and loss statement, and basically we're indexing. So the information and the structure of the cost that we are including here is basically based on public companies. The reports that public companies in this area located in the state of Florida basically are submit, right? And so basically what we're looking is a typical construction company. And when you look into the estimated savings on the bottom portion of the P&L statement, you're looking at telecom, fleet management, merchant services, waste disposal, and fuel. And you're looking at that estimated improvement of 7%. Now, this can change based on the size of the company. This can change based on the the structure of the company. We're looking at a specialized trade contractor. In this case, specialized trade contractor could be a contractor that is, let's say, electrical contractor, air conditioning contractor, a plumbing company, anything of that nature. And a contractor that is serving the residential segment. This is they're selling to clients, right, in the residential segment that they pay with credit card. So when you're looking at the cost, you're looking at most of the cost is basically recorded. All of the cost is recorded under selling general and administrative expense, but some of the part of the cost is linked to the sales, right? If you're a residential contractor, your merchant services expenses that are recorded on the under selling general and administrative expenses, basically those are impacted by the amount of sales that you have, right? Those fees are based on your revenue and the level of risk of those transactions. And so when you look into that, any improvement that you can make on operational costs goes directly to additional profits, additional profit. Now, if you're looking at a general contractor, usually a general contractor, to do a work, most of the value of this type of companies is basically looking at coordinating the efforts of several specialized trade contractors, right? There's some activities that they perform directly, but usually they do not work with residential clients or residential customers that pay with credit card, right? So in those cases, the estimated improvement will obviously be lower than the one that we're showing here. Next. There you go. Wholesale. So in this case, we're looking at a wholesale company or e-commerce company, and most of the improvement is coming from merchant services and small package shipping. And so again, those are recorded under selling general and administrative expenses. Again, merchant services usually are tied up to the revenue, and those are impacted by the risk of the transactions and the segment where the wholesaler is basically playing, right, where they operate in the industry where they operate. And anyway, so this can change again depending on the type of products that they're shipping or selling, depending on the location, and depending on the size of the company. Next. Okay. Basically, so now that we've seen the challenges that small, medium-sized businesses go through, and the opportunity as well that they have to improve their profit, and on one hand, on the other hand, when we're looking at institutions or nonprofits, and they basically have the opportunity, they have these challenges of inflation, challenges in terms of supply chain disruption, but they have also the opportunity to reduce their operational costs in order to improve their cash flow and provide better, more effective and efficient services to the community. And then in addition to that, you look into facility management entities where they can lower the cost of operating a building or a location, and be able to, in the case of community associations or building owners management associations, to reduce their monthly fees. when you see that, when you look into all that breadth of organizations or entities that can benefit from these, that have this opportunity, you should be looking at what are the attributes of whoever, if you don't have the talent on site, who should you be looking for, and what is the value of having someone to help you in this area, right? And these are the drivers of value, right? Hiring a consultant will provide the assurance, right? That you will not spend a dime more, right? Usually the benefit, the fees that they charge are tied up to the benefit that they provide, right? And that the company providing or performing the cost reduction assessment is paid based on that performance. This allows you to avoid any risk, making sure that they have the level of expertise to deliver that value. This also allows the owner or key decision maker to focus on the activities that will allow you to grow your business or improve the performance of your entity or your organization. Next. What I usually find, and what we usually find in the marketplace, is that we know what we know, right? And sometimes we know what we don't know, but oftentimes we don't know what we don't know, right? We usually feel that we negotiated a good deal, right? That we only know, but basically the only thing that we know is what our organization is currently paying, right? Having access to a critical mass of data allows you to benchmark, negotiate. That will result in better businesses for you. So having the right experts on your side will also keep those costs in control. Next. So this is an example, kind of an illustrative example of the information that anyone should have in order to make educated and informed decisions, right? So again, we were talking at the very beginning of the webinar, we were looking at this example of when you buy a house, how do you make sure that you're paying the right price for that house, right? And so basically, whoever is providing that service, this could be an agent or a broker, real estate broker or agent, whoever is providing that service, not only has the level of expertise to deliver that service, to deliver value, but also has the tools to be able to deliver the best possible value to their clients. So this is the same, basically, by having access to a national benchmark and the right level of expertise, managing that information, basically you have the tools to make the best choice. Next. So there's basically 4 ways to reduce your operational costs, right? And you look at the operations and the activities around that specific category, right? You look at the overall fee structure, you look at the level of utilization, you look at the program you're in, and make sure you take out all of those things that you do not need, right? And so with that, basically, you make sure that you're optimizing your cost in every single segment, and your operation is as lean as it could be. Next. So basically, reducing costs will allow you to improve your performance, right? and especially during these challenging times, right? And an important factor to stay in business is to reach a healthy profit level. And in the case of other entities like facility management entities, this will allow them to have access to the right set of resources, right? Controlling the cost even during these challenging times with increasing inflation becomes an area of focus for any type of entity. And hiring the right consultant and tying up these consultant fees to their performance will allow you to keep your cost in check over time. This will also provide the assurance that the consultant is on your side looking for your interests. Thank you, everyone. Now I will go over to Peggy, I guess. Peggy?
Yes,
And
yes.
if you have any
Great.
questions,
Layla, did anyone have any
don't-
questions?
We don't seem to have any questions at the moment. If you guys do have any, please send them in now.
Okay. Great information, Cesar. I just want to say to everyone, he's not really saying this, but he's saying he's recommending a consultant. That's what Schooley Mitchell does, is they get involved in companies for cost reduction advantages. And then what they do is they consult with your CPA, they work with all your various people
Get over
who
here.
do the compilation, and then as a consultant come back to you, and they only charge you if they find a cost reduction. So that's the big advantage to all businesses to help with finding the cost reductions. So they would be the consultant. Anything in the chat yet?
No, no questions.
Okay. All right, great. Well, again, I'm Peggy West. I'm the organizer for today. And I want to close by saying thank you to all the sponsors who invited you to attend today, and especially all of the guests that are listening as well. If you want to hear a special topic via webinar related to your industry on building code laws, maintenance, property management, information, anything like that, please email me directly to marketsmart01@gmail.com, and that will also be on the sponsor sheet that's going out. I'd love to hear your comments and your information and suggestions, and then I can pursue an appropriate speaker to present along with some appropriate sponsors. The sponsor sheet, again, will have the company's contact, all the contacts of the sponsors today with their phone numbers and their email addresses. And until the next webinar, please stay safe, drive responsibly as you celebrate National Hispanic Heritage Month. And lastly, if you hear or see something, please say something. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you,
Cesar.
thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you, everyone.
Very good.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.